what does a millionaire really look like? If you close your eyes and picture someone truly wealthy, what comes to mind? Is it, the sprawling mansion, the designer clothes, the latest luxury car? Because if that's your image, our deep dive today is going to fundamentally challenge that perception and quite possibly surprise you, maybe in the best way.
Yeah.
What you often see isn't necessarily what you get, and in the world of true wealth, it's often the exact opposite of what, popular culture leads us to expect.
That's a perfect starting point. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a book that really, I think, revolutionized our understanding of wealth, The Millionaire Next Door, by Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko.
Right.
And this isn't just, a collection of inspiring anecdotes or a list of tips. It's built on a really rigorous academic foundation. Extensive research.
Okay.
The authors conducted surveys of over 1,000 millionaires, spanning from 1973 all the way through the late 1990s. There was a particularly significant survey carried out between May 1995 and January 1996.
Wow, that's a long time frame.
It is. And what makes their findings so compelling, I think, is that the authors themselves actually underwrote their own study.
Really? They funded it themselves?
Yeah, which gave them complete control over the research methodology, the data collection. They made sure they had precisely the insights needed to challenge those really deeply ingrained, almost mythological, preconceived notions about what it means to be wealthy in America.
That autonomy, that must make a huge difference. It makes the insights incredibly robust, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
And that's the book's core premise, then. It meticulously unveils the surprising habits, the unassuming lifestyles, and the often counterintuitive attitudes of truly wealthy people.
Exactly. And it's crucial to remember, while the case studies in the book are vivid and detailed, all the names used are pseudonyms. They had to protect the privacy of the individuals who participated.
Of course.
But the data, the profound insights, the actionable lessons, those are undeniably real, backed by all that research.
And this work is so significant for you, our listener, because it offers this kind of powerful shortcut, maybe, to being genuinely well-informed about how wealth is actually accumulated in the real world.
Right. Not the fantasy version.
Exactly. It focuses on how ordinary, everyday individuals become wealthy, not, winning the lottery or signing multi-million-dollar sports contracts or inheriting a massive fortune, but by building it themselves steadily over like a single generation.
Our mission in this deep dive is really to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from this groundbreaking material. We want to help you understand what truly matters in building wealth.
Often counter to popular belief, right?
Absolutely. And to arm you with the reality, not the media-driven fantasy of what financial independence actually looks like. It's about empowering you with practical, evidence-based strategies.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Let's start by completely debunking some of those pervasive myths that still dominate how we think about wealth.
Yeah, the book wastes no time hitting you with this reality. Right from the start. There's this incredible anecdote.
Oh, yeah.
They recount a conversation with a trust department vice president. He was genuinely flabbergasted after meeting a focus group comprised entirely of first-generation millionaires.
He couldn't believe it.
He simply couldn't reconcile what he saw with his mental image of wealth. His exact words were just classic, "These people cannot be millionaires. They don't look like millionaires. They don't dress like millionaires.
Wow.
They don't eat like millionaires. They don't act like millionaires. They don't even have millionaire names. Where are the millionaires who look like millionaires?"
That perfectly illustrates the public perception, doesn't it?
It really does. Most people are convinced that millionaires must flaunt their wealth, expensive clothes, luxury watches, all the status symbols. But as the author's research found, this is often simply not the case among the truly wealthy. It's a concept that wise, long-term wealthy Texans encapsulate perfectly. They have the saying.
What's that?
Big hat, no cattle.
Huh. I love that metaphor. It's so vivid. What exactly does big hat, no cattle mean in this context?
Well, it refers to someone who projects an image of substantial wealth. The flashy big hat, but, beneath the surface, lacks the actual tangible assets, the cattle, right? They don't have the substance to back it up.
Okay.
The book shares this compelling story of a 35-year-old Texan. He owned a highly successful business rebuilding large diesel engines.
Okay, sounds profitable.
Very. You might imagine someone like that driving a luxury car, living in an opulent estate. But no. He drove a 10-year-old unremarkable car.
Really?
Typically wore jeans and a simple buckskin shirt. lived in a modest house in a lower middle-class neighborhood surrounded by what he described as postal clerks and firemen.
Wow.
He told the authors, "My business does not look pretty. I don't play the part, don't act it. I don't own big hats, but I have a lot of cattle."
Ah, there it is. His wealth was hidden in his business, his investments.
Exactly, his financial independence, not on his person or his driveway.
So, if the outward display is so misleading, what is the true definition of wealth, according to the authors?
Right.
Because it's not just about having money.
No, it's about financial independence, being able to maintain your current lifestyle for years without earning a month's pay. That's the real goal.
Financial independence.
Okay.
And what I found truly striking here is this statistic, that over 80% of millionaires are actually first-generation affluent.
80%.
That completely flips our common perception, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They accumulated their wealth slowly, methodically, through diligent saving and investing without, signing multi-million-dollar sports contracts, hitting the lottery, or becoming a rock star overnight.
Precisely. And this is where the rubber meets the road. The probability of becoming wealthy through those lucky breaks, the windfalls, the sudden inheritances, it's incredibly low, like less than 1 in 4,000.
1 in 4,000, that's tiny.
Tiny. Compare that to the reality. Roughly 3.5% of American households actually fall into the $1 million and over net worth category.
Okay, still a small percentage, but way bigger than 1 in 4,000.
Exactly. This stark contrast powerfully highlights that hard work, perseverance, disciplined planning, and consistent self-discipline are the true, statistically proven drivers of wealth accumulation, not some distant hope for a sudden windfall.
It's a message that really empowers anyone willing to put in the effort, I think.
Oh, okay.
That stark contrast really highlights the power of consistent, intentional action, doesn't it? So, moving beyond these common myths, let's delve into the specifics. What does this prototypical millionaire actually look like, statistically speaking, according to their research?
Well, based on their deep dives into the data, the prototypical American millionaire is a 57-year-old male, married with 3 children.
Okay.
About 70% of these millionaire households derive 80% or more of their total income from the male earner. That's, how it broke down in their surveys.
Interesting.
And interestingly, about 1 in 5 are already retired, enjoying the fruits of their labor. But here's a truly crucial detail, and one that often surprises people. About 2/3 of working millionaires are self-employed.
2/3, that's huge.
It is astonishing when you consider that self-employed individuals make up less than 20% of the entire American workforce.
Wow. That's a massive overrepresentation. It indicates a really powerful correlation between self-employment and wealth.
A huge correlation.
And it's often not the glamorous, high-tech startups or Silicon Valley unicorns that many might instinctively imagine.
Not at all. And this is where the book's insights become even more fascinating. Many of their businesses are what the authors affectionately classify as dull normal.
Dull normal. Okay, like what?
We're talking about essential, often overlooked, and generally unglamorous ventures. Think welding contractors, auctioneers, rice farmers, owners of mobile home parks, pest controllers.
Right, the stuff that keeps things running but isn't flashy.
Exactly. Coin and stamp dealers, paving contractors, these are the kinds of businesses that might not make headlines, but they provide vital services, often have stable local client bases, and crucially tend to have lower overheads and direct control over their profits.
Ah, control. That makes sense.
This self-employment, particularly within these types of steady, profitable businesses, is identified as a major positive correlate of wealth. Why? Because it offers control over your income, the ability to directly build equity in your own venture,
Right, you own it.
and the opportunity to capture the full value you generate rather than just earning a salary. It's about owning the cow, not just milking it for someone else.
Owning the cow, not just milking it. I like that. So it's not just what they do, but how they manage the money they earn from these dull normal businesses.
Exactly.
This brings us to a truly crucial distinction the book emphasizes: the difference between income and wealth.
Yes, vital.
The median household income of these millionaires is around $131,000. The average is higher, $247,000. But that's skewed by some really high earners, right?
Right. Averages can be misleading. The median gives a better picture for the typical millionaire.
But despite these, comfortable incomes, many people in America, even those with high incomes, are simply not affluent.
Indeed. This is a profound point. Nearly half of America's wealth is owned by just 3.5% of households. It's highly concentrated.
Wow.
And many people earning substantial incomes, even well over $100,000 annually, find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. They accumulate little to no significant net worth.
The book gives a really powerful example of this, doesn't it, with Sharon?
Oh yeah, Sharon, the highly compensated healthcare specialist. At age 51, her household income was an impressive $220,000.
Top 1%.
Absolutely. Top 1% of all U.S. households. Yet her net worth was a surprisingly meager $370,000.
That seems low for that income level at that age.
Very low. Based on the book's wealth equation, which is basically a formula factoring in age and annual income to estimate what your net worth should be, Sharon should have been worth over $1.1 million.
That's for $1 million.
This isn't just hypothetical. It's a stark illustration that a high income alone doesn't automatically translate to high wealth.
That's a massive gap, over $700,000. And it really underscores the book's central message. High income does not equal high wealth.
It doesn't.
Wealth, it asserts, is far more about what you do with your money than how much you make.
That's the core of it.
So how exactly do these millionaires next door manage to accumulate such significant wealth while maintaining their relatively unassuming profiles? What are their fundamental habits?
Their habits are remarkably consistent and, frankly, quite simple, but they require discipline.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, they live well below their means. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a foundational habit.
The bedrock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You won't find them spending extravagantly on personal items. The book provides tangible examples. They wear inexpensive suits. There's that memorable passage about a millionaire named Johnny Lucas.
Oh, yeah, the JCPenney guy.
The JCPenney guy. Routinely shops for his suits there. They drive American-made cars, and only a distinct minority drive current model year vehicles.
So they're not chasing the latest models.
Not at all. And furthermore, a very small percentage ever lease their motor vehicles. They prefer to own, keep them for years, extract maximum value. They see vehicles as transportation, not status symbols.
Right. A tool, not a trophy. And it's not just the millionaires themselves being frugal. Their spouses often play a huge role too, right?
An equally significant, if not more significant role, often acting as meticulous budgeters, financial gatekeepers.
Gatekeepers, interesting.
The book notes that for a remarkable 82% of millionaires, the philosophy of charity begins at home is paramount, and that wives are often reported to be even more conservative and disciplined with money than their husbands.
So it's a team effort, a shared philosophy.
It truly is a cohesive household effort. The media loves to highlight figures like Mr. King, the ones buying the 667 alligator shoes and making headlines.
Perpetuating that flashy image.
Exactly. But it's the Johnnies, the everyday millionaires shopping at Penny's, focusing on quiet financial independence, disciplined saving. They're the ones who largely get ignored by the mainstream narrative.
That is not exciting.
Because their consumption habits are, frankly, mundane, unnewsworthy. Their rewards are intangible. Profound financial independence, the satisfaction of discipline, the deep pride of being an excellent provider.
Right.
The media's constant promotion of the conspicuous consumer creates a false, unattainable, and ultimately misleading perception of affluence.
And this is precisely why you, our listener, should care about these insights. Understanding and adopting even a few of these understated habits can genuinely transform your own financial trajectory. Because if your goal is to build true wealth, achieve financial independence, you have to learn to emulate the real millionaires, not the media-fabricated version. It's about substance over show.
Well said.
So let's transition now into what the authors identify as the most impactful habits of wealth accumulators. We'll dive deep into, say, 3 of their core findings. And the first, perhaps the most crucial, is living well below your means. This is the bedrock.
Absolutely. It's deceptively simple but incredibly powerful. The book asks this critical question of all the millionaires they surveyed: does your household operate on an annual budget?
And the answer.
For most millionaires, a resounding yes. In their latest national survey, they found that for every 100 millionaires who report not budgeting, there are about 120 who do.
So a significant majority are actively budgeting.
Actively engaged in planning and controlling their spending, yes.
That's a strong indicator of their discipline. But what about those who don't meticulously budget? There were some, right? How do they manage to become millionaires if they're not tracking every dollar?
That's a great question. They often achieve a similar outcome by creating what the authors call an artificial economic environment of scarcity for themselves.
Artificial scarcity, how does that work?
Well, more than half of these non-budgeters diligently follow a pay-yourself-first strategy. This means they automatically invest a minimum of 15%, often more, of their annual realized income before paying for anything else.
Before taxes. Before the mortgage.
Before anything. This is their gross income. Before a single dollar is spent on food, clothes, mortgage, credit cards. It's automatically diverted into investments.
Yeah.
It effectively forces them to live on the remaining 85% or less. This discipline ensures they save and invest consistently, regardless of daily spending fluctuations.
That's a powerful, non-negotiable discipline. The book gives a fantastic illustration of this with Mrs. Rule.
Ah, Mrs. Rule, yeah.
She earns $90,000 annually, but is worth more than 20 times that amount.
Incredible.
She doesn't just budget, she budgets meticulously. Treats her household finances like a small business. She literally applies business accounting principles to her domestic spending.
Tracking everything.
Meticulously tracking every expense, controlling consumption, making conscious decisions to achieve her long-term goal of having $5 million by retirement. Her budget is a tool for freedom, not restriction.
Contrast her with Robert and Judy. They earn $200,000 annually, more than twice Mrs. Rule's income, yet they have only a tiny fraction of her wealth.
Why? What's their story?
They feel as though consumption controls them rather than the other way around. They're burdened by debt, evidenced by their 14 credit cards.
14.
14, while the Rules manage perfectly well with just 2. Mrs. Rule's happiness, she clarifies, comes from financial security, being free of financial worry. That profound peace of mind that comes with independence, not from conspicuous consumption.
She chooses financial peace over flashy displays.
Exactly.
This contrast brings us to one of the book's most crucial and illuminating comparative examples, the detailed case study of Dr. North and Dr. South.
Yes, the PAW versus the UAW.
Right, PAW, Prodigious Accumulator of Wealth. That's Dr. North. He's great at building wealth. And then Dr. South, the UAW, Under Accumulator of Wealth. His wealth doesn't match his income potential.
This comparison is incredibly illuminating because it lays bare the behavioral differences. Dr. North is the very embodiment of frugality, a meticulously planned lifestyle.
Okay.
He consistently lives at a level congruent with earning less than 1/3 of his actual substantial income.
Less than a third, wow.
Both he and his wife are what he affectionately calls tightwads. They diligently budget, actively seek value, consistently buy reliable used cars. Their net worth, as a direct result of these conscious choices and disciplined habits, over $7.5 million.
$7.5 million. Not luck, just discipline.
Not luck, deliberate actions.
And Dr. South, he's the financial inverse.
Completely. He earns an even higher income, over $200,000 annually, but has a shockingly low net worth for someone in his earning bracket.
How low?
Well, significantly less than expected based on the formulas. Both he and his wife are hyper-consumers, deeply entangled with multiple credit cards from upscale stores like Neiman Marcus, Saks.
High-end stuff.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating, maybe revealing about human psychology, is that Dr. South actually believes he's the tightwad in the household.
He thinks he's the frugal one.
Yeah.
While shopping at Saks.
He sees his pursuit of luxury goods and constant consumption as shrewd bargain hunting.
That's quite a disconnect.
It's a complete self-delusion, maybe. And it highlights how deeply ingrained consumption can become. Their time allocation, meticulously documented by the authors, further demonstrates this stark difference in priorities.
How do they spend their time differently?
Dr. North dedicates about 10 hours a month to diligently studying and planning his future investments, and an additional 20 hours managing his current investments, actively overseeing his portfolio.
So 30 hours a month focused on wealth building.
Right. Dr. South, in stark contrast, spends only 3 hours a month studying any investment opportunities and a mere 1 hour managing his existing investments.
4 hours versus 30. That's huge.
The data is clear. PAWs, on average, spend a staggering 83% more time planning their finances and investments than UAWs. It's a fundamental difference in commitment and priority.
So PAWs are actively, consistently managing their wealth, treating it like a serious endeavor, while UAWs are kind of ignoring it, hoping it'll just magically grow.
That's a good way to put it. And this extends to their consumption habits, too, even something seemingly mundane like car shopping.
How so?
Dr. South will aggressively shop for bargains on new luxury cars, spending countless hours visiting dealerships, researching models, even recontacting dealers at month end to squeeze out what he believes are the lowest bids.
So he invests significant time chasing the best deal on a depreciating asset.
Precisely. Meanwhile, the millionaires Dr. Stanley and Dr. Danko studied, on average, are consistently dealer shoppers rather than dealer loyalists. They prioritize getting the best value, constantly seeking deals, rarely swayed by brand prestige alone.
Interesting.
They might buy a reliable used car from a relative or even patronize a dealer simply because that dealer does business with them, highlighting their reciprocal relationships.
A different kind of loyalty.
Exactly. Dr. North, for instance, is his own financial advisor. He has a long-term buy-and-hold strategy, rarely sells stocks, has virtually zero transaction fees because he invests directly in things like farmland, other tangible assets that generate income and appreciate.
Smart, low friction.
Very. Dr. South, on the other hand, trades rapidly based on fleeting market trends or cold calls from brokers, frequently gets burned by poor advice, pays substantial capital gains taxes from his frequent selling. And his pension plan was tiny, less than $40K at the time, despite his high income.
It's a tale of two entirely different financial philosophies, isn't it?
Completely different worlds, driven by mindset.
And what stands out to you about these deep contrasts? It's not just net worth. It's their daily actions, their mindsets.
It really drives home that it's not about making a lot of money. It's about what you do with the money you make, the discipline you apply, how you allocate your time and energy.
And this leads us directly into our second core habit, prioritizing financial independence over social display.
It's the silent revolution of wealth. Most millionaires, as the research clearly shows, are not driving luxury cars.
We keep coming back to the cars.
Because it's such a visible symbol, they're far more concerned with acquiring appreciating assets, investments, businesses, real estate, rather than liabilities that rapidly depreciate, like a brand new luxury vehicle.
Right.
The book details that 54.3% of millionaires are dealer shoppers, intensely focused on value and discounts, as opposed to 45.7% who are dealer loyalists.
So even the loyalists aren't necessarily buying the fanciest brands.
Not necessarily. And even among the loyalists, many choose dealers they have reciprocal business relationships with, again, indicating a strategic rather than purely emotional choice.
The book shares that fascinating, almost surgical approach of Mr. Mark R. Stewart, the procurement expert.
Oh, the fax method. Yes. He used his background in the U.S. Army procurement. Sent detailed specifications for an SUV to multiple dealerships via fax, forcing them to compete on price.
No haggling, just pure competition.
Exactly. A methodical, price-conscious approach to a large purchase, demonstrating that principle of leveraging competition for the best value.
And then there are the used vehicle-prone shoppers, a distinct subset of millionaires.
Yes, these individuals are far more likely to buy their suits from factory outlets, shop at practical, value-oriented stores like Sears.
Sears, okay.
And consistently spend significantly less on all visible status items. Watches, suits, shoes. The book reported they spent only 59% as much on a wristwatch, 83% on a suit, and 88% on shoes compared to other millionaires. Their priorities are clear.
Utility and value over brand and status.
Absolutely.
Dr. Bill, the professor, is a perfect example of this non-display orientation.
Yes, Dr. Bill. He purposefully bought what he called used cream puffs, reliable, well-maintained used cars. Excellent value, long lifespan.
And the payoff.
By consistently making these frugal choices over the years, he saved enough to fully fund not just one, but both of his children's entire college and graduate school tuitions. Completely debt-free.
That's incredible. That's a powerful trade-off. Visible status for invisible, deeply impactful financial freedom for his kids.
It's a choice many struggle with. Compare Dr. Bill to his neighbor, Mr. Norman. Earned twice as much income, but had almost no investments outside his home equity and a modest pension.
Why the difference?
Mr. Norman found the idea of buying a used car degrading, a blow to his perceived status. While Dr. Bill gained great satisfaction from his frugal choices, knowing the profound impact they had on his family's future.
So one felt degraded, the other felt satisfied by the same choice.
Right. This highlights what the authors call the great offense and poor defense that often leads to the under-accumulation of wealth spending on status that actively detracts from asset building.
Offense being high spending, defense being low savings. Got it. This brings us to our third crucial habit, strategic long-term investing. Let's look at Mr. Friend, another quintessential under-accumulator of wealth.
Mr. Friend, yes. High-income earner, successful professional, but his net worth, less than a quarter of what it should be based on his income and age.
And the simple reason?
Wealth accumulation is simply not what motivates him. It's not a priority in his life.
Where did that come from?
His parents, the book reveals, instilled a very simple, albeit financially devastating, philosophy in him. One earns to spend. When you need to spend more, you need to earn more.
Earn to spend. Ouch.
They lived by this maxim, spent nearly all their income, even anticipated and spent future tax refunds before they arrived. They never set aside income for investment. Saving was a foreign concept.
The book drives home the long-term cost of seemingly small expenses with his parents' smoking habit, right?
Oh, that's a powerful one. They spent over $33,000 on cigarettes over their lifetime. What makes this figure truly shocking is that it was more than the purchase price of their home at the time.
More than their house cost, just on cigarettes.
Yes. That $33,000, if consistently invested over decades at even a modest return, could have easily compounded to make them millionaires. It's a powerful illustration of the insidious power of small, consistent consumption choices versus the immense power of compound interest.
That's truly shocking, the cumulative power of seemingly insignificant daily behaviors. Mr. Friend, now nearly 50, faces a grim reality.
He can only live off his current meager wealth for about a year. He's found that fear is his primary motivator for working harder. He increases debt to propel himself to earn more.
So debt fuels his work ethic.
It's a vicious, exhausting cycle. Keeps him firmly on the earn and spend treadmill, always chasing the next paycheck without building any real financial security.
And this isn't just about individual habits. It's about a foundational mindset and discipline. The book explicitly states that planning is only one of many key ingredients.
Right. Millionaires, the PAWs, consistently start planning their financial future earlier in life, and they maintain meticulously regimented schedules for managing their money and investments.
What about the UAWs? Do they plan at all?
UAWs often attempt what the authors call shock planning, sudden, drastic, often unsustainable cuts in consumption, like extreme budgeting for a short period.
Crash dieting for finances.
Exactly. These attempts typically fail, leading them to quickly fall off the wagon and revert to their old spending patterns. Consistency, not drastic temporary measures, is the key.
It's like a fad diet. It doesn't work long-term because it's not integrated into a sustainable lifestyle. This really begs the question for you, the listener. What stands out most about these profound contrasts between the PAWs and UAWs? What could you implement, even just one small, dull, normal thing, to begin transforming your financial habits and mindset? Because the insights in this book aren't just for a select few. They're for anyone seeking genuine financial independence and security.
It's about empowering yourself with actionable wisdom.
Definitely. Now let's shift gears to a topic that the book delves into extensively, with fascinating and often counterintuitive findings. The pitfalls of what the authors provocatively call economic outpatient care, or EOC.
Ah, yes, EOC. This is truly a significant concept, and it often challenges deeply held family dynamics.
What exactly is it?
EOC refers to the substantial economic gifts and what parents often perceive as acts of kindness that they consistently give to their adult children and grandchildren.
So, financial help from parents to adult kids.
Essentially, yes. And it's far more widespread in America than many realize. Over 46% of affluent Americans, those with significant wealth, give at least $15,000 annually in EOC.
Nearly half. Wow.
And the data shows that nearly half of all adult children under the age of 35 receive regular cash gifts from their parents. It signifies a cultural pattern of intergenerational financial support.
So it's not a fringe behavior. It's very common, especially in affluent families. The book illustrates this with Lamar and Mary.
Right. They live in a $300,000 home with a combined annual income of $60,000.
Okay, that seems like a stretch.
It is. But here's the crucial kicker. They also receive an additional $15,000 annually from Mary's mother. Consistent EOC.
Ah, the subsidy.
This is a clear, tangible example of EAC directly supporting an unsustainable lifestyle that their own income couldn't possibly maintain. The authors point out that roughly 30% of households in America living in $300,000 homes have annual incomes of $60,000 or less. A significant portion are able to do so largely because of consistent EOC.
And this leads us to one of the book's most important and perhaps most uncomfortable findings.
Yeah.
The detrimental impact of this EOC on the recipients.
Yes. The author's research reveals that in 8 out of 10 occupational categories, adult children who consistently receive gifts from their parents actually have lower net worths and lower incomes than their counterparts who do not receive such gifts.
Wait, lower net worth and lower income?
Both. For instance, accountants who receive gifts from their parents have only 57% of the net worth and 78% of the income of non-receiving accountants.
That's truly astonishing. So, despite the best intentions of the parents, these financial gifts are actually hindering their children's ability to accumulate wealth and generate income.
Precisely. It seems counterintuitive to the traditional notions of helping, doesn't it?
Completely. How does that happen?
Well, the authors explain that gift receivers tend to be euphoric about their perceived economic well-being. This sense of security, often a false one, frequently leads them to spend tomorrow's EOC today through credit.
They spend the gift before they even get it.
Effectively, yes. Anticipating and front-loading future gifts, they are, as the book details, significantly more dependent on credit than their non-receiving peers, using credit as an extension of their parents' generosity rather than a temporary tool.
Okay, so it fuels consumption and debt.
Gig time. The book shares the telling story of Mrs. BPF. Her business is heavily subsidized by a staggering $60,000 cash injection from her parents annually.
$60,000 a year.
Yes. Yet, despite this massive support, she spends lavishly, drives a $45,000 car, wears a $5,000 watch, spends over $20,000 on clothing annually, consistently accumulates credit card debt.
And the business.
Her business, despite the constant subsidies, remains a stepchild, never truly flourishing or standing on its own because the necessity for it to succeed is removed by the EOC.
And this is in stark contrast to someone like Paul Orfalea, the founder of Kinko's.
Exactly. He started his hugely successful business with a mere $5,000 co-signed loan from his father. He didn't have the crutch of constant parental subsidy. He had to make it work.
Necessity breeds invention, and maybe wealth accumulation.
His success was forged out of courage and necessity, without that comfortable cushion of EOC. It really makes you think about the powerful, almost catalytic impact of genuine necessity as a motivator.
It also seems to blur the lines of wealth for the recipients.
Profoundly. Gift receivers, the book points out, never fully distinguish between their wealth and the wealth of their gift-giving parents.
They see mom and dad's money as their own.
Subconsciously or consciously, they view parental wealth as income to be spent, rather than a separate, inherited asset. This is perfectly captured by what the authors call the montage effect.
Okay.
A character named James, whose parents own significant commercial property, simply views that property and its income as his own, despite not having contributed to its acquisition or management.
Wow.
What's even more striking is that about 2 out of 3 adult children receiving significant cash gifts actually believe they are self-made.
Self-made while getting $15K a year from mom. That's something.
This psychological phenomenon underscores the deep disconnect EOC can create.
That's a powerful and potentially damaging illusion. And it seems EOC can actually lead to what the authors call weakening the weak. Parents with the best intentions inadvertently contribute to dependency.
And prevent their children from developing crucial life skills. The book provides unsettling examples. A father writing his college son's papers because of a perceived verbal deficiency.
Oh.
A mother demanding a teacher move her daughter's seat. Or even parent trying to get a professor fired for failing their child. These are all attempts to remove obstacles rather than allow the child to learn to overcome them.
They're preventing resilience buildings.
Fundamentally, these actions, while seemingly supportive, prevent children from developing resilience, problem-solving skills, true self-sufficiency. The book draws a stark contrast between Sarah, who received 0 EOC, and as a result, developed incredible independence, became a successful proofreader, eventually a senior executive. Her sister Alice, on the other hand, was Papa's girl, heavily subsidized, remained perpetually dependent.
So Sarah learned to fish, Alice kept getting fish delivered.
Exactly. Sarah, in effect, burned her bridges and learned to fish for herself, developing the grit and resourcefulness needed to thrive. Alice, without that necessity, remained comfortable but ultimately dependent.
And this dependency can even lead to significant intergenerational conflict, creating deep anxieties for the parents, like Dr. South, the UAW.
Yes, Dr. South worries deeply about his children fighting over his estate precisely because of their current reliance on EOC. He fears not having enough resources to continue subsidizing them, just as his own parents subsidized him.
Perpetuating a cycle of dependence and anxiety, he sees his kids as extensions of his own financial burdens.
It's a heavy weight. There are, however, some truly interesting exceptions to this EOC pattern, and they provide valuable lessons.
Oh, like who?
The book highlights gift-receiving teachers and professors as a fascinating anomaly. Despite generally having lower incomes than their non-receiving counterparts in other professions, they actually have higher net worths.
Teachers and professors receiving gifts have higher net worths. How much higher?
Teachers receiving gifts had 185% of the net worth of non-receiving teachers. Professors had 128%.
Wow. That's completely opposite the trend for other professions.
Yeah.
Why?
It strongly suggests a higher propensity to save and invest the gifts. They remain frugal and disciplined even when receiving financial help. Their intrinsic values, education, intellectual pursuits, a generally less materialistic lifestyle, seem to override the typical consumption impulses seen in other EOC recipients.
That's a truly fascinating anomaly. It raises an incredibly important question for you, our listener. If you receive financial gifts, or maybe even a large bonus or windfall, how can you apply the disciplines shown by these teachers and professors? How can you ensure you save and invest those gifts wisely rather than letting them fuel unsustainable consumption?
It's a crucial question. The book also offers actionable, direct advice for affluent parents trying to raise financially productive children.
Okay, what are the rules?
First and foremost, never tell children they are wealthy.
Don't let them know.
Right. The example of Ken is powerful. He only learned his father was wealthy when he became the executor of his estate. His father drove the same unassuming Buick for 8 years, lived in the same modest house for 32 years, never flaunted his success.
That quiet example taught Ken the true meaning of financial independence.
Exactly. Second, parents must teach discipline and frugality by example. Like Dr. North's family, where both parents lived below their means and modeled responsible financial behavior.
Lead by example. Makes
Yep.
sense. What else?
Third, minimize discussions of inheritance to avoid future conflict and resentment among siblings who might start feeling entitled. Fourth, never use gifts as a negotiation strategy or a means to control your adult children's choices.
The strings attached.
Right. Fifth, and this is crucial, don't compete with your children or boast about your wealth. It sends confusing messages, can foster resentment, undermine their own hard-won achievements.
Keep it humble.
Sixth, recognize the immense lasting value of education. Tuition is overwhelmingly the most frequent gift from millionaires to their children, reflecting their strong belief that formal schooling, higher education are vital, a durable asset.
Investing in human capital.
Precisely. And finally, there's a powerful paradox observed. The most economically productive children often receive less EOC and less inheritance, while the least productive tend to receive the most.
Wow. So helping less might actually help more in the long run.
It's a critical insight for parents who genuinely seek to empower their children, rather than inadvertently creating dependency and weakening their resolve to become self-sufficient. Foster capability, not just provide comfort.
Okay. Now let's turn our attention to the path forward. How true wealth is built and preserved, going beyond these myths and pitfalls.
The book consistently reiterates that while not all self-employed business owners become millionaires, being personally frugal, a conscientious and disciplined investor, and owning a profitable business significantly increases the odds. It's a powerful combination.
They use that example from the coal mining industry, right?
Yes, a fascinating, almost brutal example. The authors note that short periods of rough times can actually weed out much of the competition.
So downturns strengthen the survivors.
It seems so. Less resilient businesses fail, leaving the tenacious survivors with less competition and often leading to incredibly high profits during recovery periods. This highlights the immense resilience, persistence, often stoicism required for long-term business success, particularly in less glamorous sectors.
Not for the faint of heart. But the rewards for endurance can be substantial.
Absolutely.
And it's not just gritty industrial businesses. Many wealthy parents encourage their children to become self-employed professionals. Physicians, attorneys, engineers, accountants.
Yes, these professions specifically. Why? Consistently high success rates, very few trained professionals in these fields fail to make a profit, and their profitability is substantially higher than the average small business.
Plus, their skills are portable.
Highly portable. A physician's intellect, specialized knowledge, expertise can go anywhere. Their value isn't tied to a fixed physical asset like a coal mine or equipment.
Makes sense.
While the training is notoriously long and costly, requiring immense dedication, the perceived lifetime benefits for self-employed professionals, significant earning potential, professional autonomy, are enormous. It makes it a consistently favored path for the affluent to recommend, seen as an investment in highly valuable, resilient human capital.
This inherent stability and portability directly challenges the common perception that entrepreneurship is inherently risky.
It does. In fact, successful business owners profiled in the book often view self-employment as the ultimate form of freedom, and paradoxically, even less risky than working for others.
Less risky? How?
Control, perhaps. One millionaire powerfully stated, "The successful man is a guy who works at a job, who likes his work, who can't wait to get up in the morning and can't wait to go to work in the morning."
That speaks to a profound sense of purpose and control.
It's about courage, too. The courage to deal with risk daily, make difficult decisions, conquer fear. The authors cite figures like Ray Kroc of McDonald's, Walt Disney, Lee Iacocca as iconic examples.
People who face huge risks.
They faced and overcame fears that others simply avoided. This daily confrontation with risk, the book argues, actually makes successful entrepreneurs less fearful overall, builds resilience, problem-solving capability. They adapt, innovate, see challenges as opportunities.
So what does this all mean for the future of wealth in America? Who stands to benefit most from these trends?
Well, the book projected that by 2005, millionaire households would reach about 5.6 million, holding a staggering 59% of America's private wealth. That was projected at $16.3 trillion, a testament to the compounding power of these habits.
16 trillion. Wow. And a huge amount of that wealth is going to be transferred, right?
A truly significant amount. By 2005, an estimated $1 trillion in 1990 dollars was expected to be distributed to children and grandchildren from estates.
$1 trillion.
And much of this transfer is often managed to be tax-free for the recipient. Utilizing strategic financial planning like the $10,000 annual gift per parent per recipient, allowing substantial tax-free transfers over time.
It's clear that even the IRS has its eye on this quiet accumulation and strategic transfer of wealth. The book features that cynical IRS employee, Mr. Young.
Yes, Mr. Young. He candidly views high-income spenders as the IRS's best customers.
Why? Because they generate taxable income.
Exactly.
Yeah.
High incomes, equally high consumption, generates so much taxable income and activity. He contrasts them sharply with millionaires who, as he puts it, transform themselves by judiciously converting income into assets and using smart estate planning to avoid estate taxes.
So the IRS studies how the affluent manage to have low realized income compared to their net worth.
They do. Optimizing their tax liability is part of the game for PAWs.
This quiet accumulation and sophisticated wealth management naturally creates significant demand for certain specialized professions and businesses.
Absolutely. Attorneys specializing in estate, trust, and gift tax. Accountants offering tax planning, business valuation, even acting as co-executors. They're in incredibly high demand. Critical roles for managing and transferring wealth efficiently and legally.
And specific medical specialists too, right? Because of the EOC for healthcare.
That's right. The research indicates 44% of millionaires pay for their adult offspring's healthcare, even non-emergency issues. This drives demand for dermatologists, allergists, psychologists, psychiatrists, chiropractors.
Interesting downstream effect.
And beyond healthcare, there's a consistent need for asset liquidators and appraisers for non-cash gifts. And those who provide high-quality private schooling and specialized tutoring, reflecting that investment in human capital again.
The book also touches on the earnings gap between men and women in high-income professions.
Yes, a critical social and economic point. For instance, one table noted female physicians earning only 52% of what male physicians earned at that time.
That's a huge gap. Does the book stress why? Or connect it to EOC?
It raises a fascinating question for us to consider. Does the existence of traditional family structures where wives might not work full-time and the prevalence of EOC for daughters inadvertently send a message that they don't need to pursue equally demanding careers or achieve full financial independence? It's a subtle but potentially powerful societal influence hinted at.
Food for thought. To wrap up our deep dive, the book concludes with a poignant, very revealing story from a millionaire named Mr. W and his dog.
Oh, Mr. W's dog story, yes. Mr. W, a PAW, owned a valuable condo. But the condo association passed a new rule restricting dogs over 15 pounds. His own cherished dog weighed 30 pounds.
So what did he do? Fight the rule?
No. Despite the financial loss, Mr. W ultimately sold the valuable condo, stating simply, "I don't want to live in a building with people who don't like dogs."
He sold a valuable asset because of a dog rule.
This story, while seemingly small, powerfully illustrates that for the truly wealthy, the PAWs' personal values, peace of mind, aligning with their core principles can, and often do, outweigh pure financial gain.
It's a profound lesson, isn't it? Financial independence isn't solely about accumulating money. It's about having the freedom to live life on your own terms.
To make choices that align with your deepest values, even if that means walking away from a financially advantageous situation that doesn't resonate, it's the ultimate dividend of true wealth.
So what does this all mean for you? This deep dive into the Millionaire Next Door has hopefully revealed that true, lasting wealth is often invisible, built not on high income or flashy consumption, but on foundational principles.
Yes.
Self-discipline, unwavering frugality, strategic, patient investing.
The key takeaways are crystal clear and profoundly actionable. Live well below your means, consistently operate on an annual budget, or commit to that pay-yourself-first strategy, automatically investing at least 15% of your income.
Make dedicated time for investment planning and active management.
Diligently avoid excessive debt. Be profoundly cautious with economic outpatient care, both giving and receiving, understanding its subtle pitfalls.
And most importantly, consistently prioritize true financial independence over fleeting social status.
The book's enduring, powerful message is that wealth is genuinely attainable for many more people than commonly believed. It's not just for a select few with extraordinary luck or inherited privilege.
It's fundamentally about character traits, isn't it? Discipline, perseverance, a willingness to be unglamorous, maybe even misunderstood.
Yeah.
And above all, consistency.
Exactly. It's the consistent, disciplined behaviors applied day after day, year after year, that truly build lasting wealth. It's not about grand gestures or massive windfalls.
It's the accumulation of small, smart, deliberate daily decisions that, over time, compound into significant financial security and freedom.
That's the path.
So, as you reflect on this deep dive, consider your own relationship with money, with status, and with how you allocate your most precious resource, your time. What small, perhaps dull normal adjustments could you realistically make in your daily life, your spending, your approach to investing? What could begin to shift your trajectory toward becoming the millionaire next door? Maybe it's dedicating more time to understanding your investments, like Dr. North, or consciously choosing a reliable used car, like Dr. Bill, or just adopting Mrs. Rule's meticulous budgeting.
Just one thing.
Think about just one habit you can adopt, or one common myth you can shed based on the insights shared today. How will you start building your own cattle, quietly and consistently?